Yo, what's good, everybody? It is Kev, one third of the grandfather paradox that makes up games music life, and I'll be coming to you with a review of the new Future album, Hndrxx. Now, if you don't know already, Future is an Atlanta based rapper. This is going to be his sixth studio album and his second album in the last 7 days. So, with that, very exciting, and we're going to jump right into it. First, to kick off this album, we've got the first track on here, My Collection. First thing I noticed on this track is the washed out, kind of wispy sample that's playing in the background, which does a great job of setting the tone of this song. As Future gives us a look into his life, you can actually hear his chains clinking in the background, which he makes note of in the track, which I thought was a pretty cool touch. And he kind of assesses his past relationships and where that has led him now. Sounds like some of this song may be aimed at his relationship with Sierra, but there are no names. With it, I thought that this was a good way to set the album off and kind of give the listeners an idea of what to expect on this album. Next up, we've got Coming Out Strong featuring The Weeknd. This track starts off with a smooth R&B arrangement that is later followed up by some really aggressive drums. The Weeknd takes the lead on this track, coming in with the first verse and the hook, and he's singing about all the ways that people try to take advantage of his generosity and not allowing this to breed resentment and or get him down or anything like that. Future follows up by explaining how he's been lost in short relationships and the stories that come out about him, but still persevering through those obstacles and trying to find his way through relationships or navigate new relationships. Overall, pretty cool track. After that, we've got the track Looking Exotic. This is a track produced by Southside and Jake One. I really like the mechanical machine beat on this track. There are some really subtle background vocals, which surprisingly were provided by Mayor Hawthorne, that give this track a really full atmospheric vibe. Future goes through the track and he talks about all the money and the fame that he wants to share with the woman that he's with or that the track is centered around. With it, there's nothing too deep about this song, but it's not a bad track. After that, we've got the track Damage. This track is produced by DJ Mustard and Detail. This track starts off with Detail providing an interpolation of the guide track Piece of My Love. This track features Future speaking on the struggles of his lifestyle and all the things that come with his lifestyle, from drugs to women to money, and how it relates back to himself. I'm not crazy about the instrumental on here, but there is a synth in the background that just kind of takes me out of this beat. So with it, I wasn't crazy about this song. Now, to follow up, we've got the track Use Me. This track was produced by Detail, Swift, and Track Burners. The first thing that I noticed on this is the kind of Bon Iver vibe that Future is setting, with a really airy, layered vocal that pops out on the chorus in the beginning of the track and in the background throughout the track. Future comes in singing his heart out about how he wants a woman to use him up for everything she can, from that being his money to his access, his fame, all of that stuff. Just wants her to indulge in all of that. With it, I'm not crazy about this track either, and there are some kind of lackluster bars on here. There was one that stood out to me, that he was feeling like Pink Floyd with the lean out. I'm not quite sure what that's supposed to mean. It just kind of sounded like a little bit of filler. Overall, this track, again, I wasn't crazy about. After that, we're followed up with the song Incredible, and this is produced by Dre Moon. Now, with it, overall, this is probably one of my least favorite songs on this album. I really hate the poppy light feel of the production on this track. Future singing about how he had trust issues in a relationship until he met an honest woman, but it just comes across as a poor attempt at a crossover song. I wasn't digging this at all. Now, to follow, we've got the track Testify. I don't know what it is about this track that I'm not feeling, but again, it just didn't catch me. Future's flow is steady and coherent as he again talks about trying to build a stable relationship, but nothing really stands out about this track or this beat. It was kind of lackluster in my opinion. Again, this song sounds like some filler. Now, after that, we've got the track Fresh Air. This is a track that was produced by Detail. This track gives me the vibe of Body Party, which Future had written for Sierra some years ago. That was a really big hit on the radio. In the beginning, I kind of got that vibe from there, and it maintains a really good R&B dance vibe throughout the song. It's got really short verses on here with the focus more on the bridge and the choruses. Sounds like something that typically he might write for another artist, but it works well for him in this track. And Future just kicks a little something about needing to take some time away to recharge. Now, the next track on this album is Never Miss a Lost. The track was produced by Detail. Future comes in with a heavy R&B vibe as he reinterpolates Jodeci's My Heart Belongs to You. Detail laced this track and it really captures the vibe and sets the mood on here. Future sounds good over the instrumental. I thought that this was a really solid track and the album starts to pick up again at this point. Now, in keeping pace, we got the next track, Keep Quiet. This is produced by DJ Spins and K Major. The track starts off with what I felt like was just an awful key arrangement with these really manufactured synths, but it actually catches its pace pretty quickly. Future gives us another lifestyle track. Nothing really special about this track, but it was okay. And continuing through the track list, we got the track Hallucinating. This is produced by Dre Moon. At this point in the album, I was starting to get a little exhausted listening to it. We had another song about drugs, women, and money. Another really bland R&B beat with some light trap drums that give it that Future flair. But again, I felt like this track was just a bit more filler. Now after that, we've got the track I Thank You. This is produced by Wheezy. First thing that catches me is I really like the guitar on this track. Future sings about how much he appreciates the woman in his life for motivating him to hustle and do better. I felt like this song was pretty decent, but again, I didn't really see that he was catching that je ne sais quoi. There was no magic on this track for me. So with it, it was a cool track. It was passable, but nothing really that stood out. Continuing along through the track listing, we've got New Illuminati. With it, this is produced by DY of 808 Mafia. I actually really like the keys on this track, but that's about the only good thing going on this track in my opinion. Future goes back to that pause stutter that he used on Rihanna's Love Song a few years ago. I didn't really like it then, so I didn't really like it now on this track. This was another song I could do without. Now, to follow up after that, we've got Turn Me On, a track produced by Nash B. This track actually picks things back up again for this album for me. I really enjoyed the dark, ethereal production on this track with the horn interpolation of Outkast, Spodioti Dopalicious. Future tries to keep it in his pocket. He doesn't do too much with the singing, but really focuses on the verses, talking about all the people that have switched up on him in relationships throughout the years. With it, there was only one bar in there that really kind of threw me off. He says something about, I had wheat Timbs on when I came to you. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it's cool. I like the song, so I'll take it. Next up, we've got the song Selfish featuring Rihanna. This is a Detail produced track. Now with it, first thing that really catches you is, man, this is a real life pop song being built right in front of our very own eyes. Rihanna and Future crooning about trying to repair a broken relationship over a really bare but light beat, and sounds like a song for all ages. With it, it sounds like a typical pop song. It would work on radio pretty well. I wasn't crazy about it, but it was acceptable. It's not a bad song. Now, as we come around to the close of this album, we've got the track Solo, produced by Dre Moon. The beat is just flames on this track. This is probably my favorite song on the whole album. It's got a really menacing sound with mostly just an airy synth and a simple drum pattern. Future sounds really good over this track. He's not trying to do too much vocally, but he's just riding the beat, letting the game come to him. This is through and through my favorite track on the album. And to close out, we've got the song Sorry, produced by Metro Boomin. This last track finds Future going through his regrets and mistakes and apologizing for the hurt ones, or the loved ones that he's hurt over the years. Metro laces this track with a lot of different sounds that he somehow manages to make work, from the melancholy piano that's playing in there to the really up-tempo drums. Closes out much like he did on the Future album, in my opinion, with a bit more of a personal vibe as Future bears his sins on this track. I wasn't crazy about the singing on this hook, but everything else I thought was really working well. Now, in my final opinion, I know I've been kind of hard on this album, but I actually did think that this was a pretty solid album. It was very coherent from start to finish. I felt like Future put a lot of work and a lot of thought into this album, gave us a lot of different sounds, and experimented a lot. Stylistically, I felt like this was Future showing why he has that pop appeal or why he is such a star. I actually did think it was a good body of work, even if the songs weren't for me or you know, it may not have been my taste. Overall, I gave this album an 80. Let me know what you think. If you've listened to it, did you love it? Were you not feeling it? Were you on the fence about it? You know, let me know. Drop a comment below. As always, this is Kev, 1/3 of Games Music Life. I appreciate you guys for rocking with us. Drink more water. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and peace.